So I changed the rear trailing arms in my Saab 9.3, and here we can see the trailing arms mounted on a display in the Saab car museum. It's like bolted on with 3 bolts into the chassis, and then you have 3 bolts running into the rear spindle, that thing holding the wheel bearing and such. And to start this job, I put my car up on these plastic blocks and jacked it up. I did drop the lower control arm, but I don't think this was necessary, but I just thought I needed to do this to get access to the 3 bolts that goes into the spindle, but I don't think that is necessary, as I said. And to remove the 3 bolts going into the spindle, I just used a breaker bar, but removing the 1 bolt from the rear shock absorber I think is a good choice to do, because then you can get the shock absorber out of your way and you get much better access to the bolts and get the breaker bar in there, as we can see here. And the bolts were on there fairly tight, but there wasn't really an issue getting them out. I was much more worried about these bolts going into the chassis, and on this side 2 of the bolts came out just straight away, but one of them I could feel was a little bit loose, and as you see on the design here, or the cut out car, the bolts go into these nuts that is like inside of the chassis, and I could feel one of those nuts was a little bit loose, but still it wasn't spinning around, so the bolt went out. But if those top bolts that are in the chassis start spinning around, uh, yeah, I'm not sure what you should do. Either you have to cut everything out and then weld in a new one, or I guess you maybe just have to live with having 2 bolts. I'm not sure, but in my case I got all of them out. So here we can see the rear trailing arm, and as we can see, this bushing here is absolutely worn out. The rear bushing there is supposed to be a little bit flexible to get some active steering from the rear wheels, but when it was as soft as this, I could feel maybe the rear of the car would turn more than you would expect, and also going over bumps and such, I could somewhat feel the rear tire being somewhat loose when it was like following the car. So it was a huge upgrade, or a much better feeling driving with the new trailing arms. So changing these control arms are fairly straightforward, and I would say actually fairly easy, as long as you get the 3 bolts out of your chassis without those nuts getting loose. So the only hard thing, I guess, is sourcing these control arms. Bushings are available, but getting new control arms that doesn't have any rust and such, like I did, maybe will be harder for some people. I got them at a very good price at the Saab festival this year, and I think actually the Saab like owners club, not owners club, but there's another Saab club that sells the same control arms for around $100 a piece, which is still an okay price in my opinion. Uh, but I guess getting them to ship them out of Sweden maybe is a little bit harder. So if you want brand new control arms, you maybe have to find somebody in Sweden to help you out getting them shipped to where you are. I don't know. But yeah, thank you for watching.